Good morning, you guys. What is up? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a new video. Welcome to a new little yap and chat. We're gonna catch up. I'm gonna answer your questions. If you guys are new here, maybe from like the fall content, I love to film these quarterly. I think they're a great way to stay connected with you guys, just chat about what's on our mind and just like life in general. And I just have so much fun with them. And I hope you guys enjoyed them too. I feel like it's definitely the kind of video you can have on in the background or maybe like listen to it as a podcast. Okay, first two things. One, it just started snowing and I'm kind of excited. Two, I am filming this on Sunday and you're seeing it on Sunday. So it's kind of a real-time video, and that is because I have been in the biggest funk this week. We can talk about that after, but I've just been feeling, sorry, I'm gonna get so distracted by the snow because I really think the first snow of the year is so magical. Even if you don't like winter, like you have to say that the first snow is very magical. Although I will say, a little pointer to Mother Nature, I think it's the most magical when like you wake up and it snowed like overnight. Now, it's still magical now, but you know what I mean? Like when you wake up to the first snow, that's something. Anyways, what was I saying? I'm on a tangent. I'm in such a good mood this morning. I think I just woke up and felt like myself again. Sometimes you just need a really good night's sleep for that, you know? Anyways, I've got a peppermint coffee. Let me take a sip, then we're gonna put it down and then we'll keep chatting and I'll get to your questions. And I'm so excited. You guys you asked such good questions. Like just when I think there's nothing else that we can talk about, you guys always ask the best questions. And I'm really excited to dive into it because there's some really good ones in here. So let's take a sip of coffee. I feel like half asleep. It's because it's literally 7:48 in the morning. I was like, I gotta get up. I gotta get this filmed. I gotta get this up today. Okay, one sec. I've been in a bit of a funk this week. Not necessarily anxious or feeling sad, but just in a funk. And I can pinpoint exactly what it was. And you know, when it's just kind of like the snowball effect happens, I was just feeling really overwhelmed about the house, which is actually one of the questions you guys asked. And I felt like we had so much we wanted to get done before the end of the year that Matt and I were both starting to just feel really overwhelmed. And I was kind of getting like that ball of, not anxiety, but I was just like, oh my God, there's so much we want to do. And so we sat down and made an action plan and I feel so much better now. But sometimes those feelings of overwhelmed just kind of like spiral. Then I started feeling overwhelmed with social media and then I started feeling overwhelmed with work. And I just felt like this week was like a week of just like, I was a big ball of overwhelm. How many times can you say overwhelm? You get the point. You guys know I'm really good about just, I'm not picking up the camera if I'm not in the mood to film. And I do my best to get the 2 videos out a week, or sometimes either like, I guess 2 videos a week or every 4 to 5 days. It's kind of the same thing. It amounts to the same amount of videos at the end of the month. I'm just trying to learn to be more kind to myself and gentle to myself. And I just want to say a huge thank you because sometimes like today, for example, the videos are uploaded like 5 days apart. And I know you guys would probably prefer if it was like, you know, every 3 or 4 days. You guys are just always so kind. And I'm just trying to learn to be more gentle to myself and kind to myself and treat myself with compassion because that's something I'm really bad about. So anyways, I just want to say thank you to you guys because you guys are always so understanding and kind. But yesterday I had a good day. It's the weekend, Matt's working. And so yesterday I got coffee with my mom, we chatted. I went to the barn this week. Like I made an effort to get out of the house. I started my little challenge, my little like, I called it 50 Thrive because there's 50 days until Christmas Eve. And I'm feeling really good about being proactive about my mental health in the winter. And obviously there's things you can't control. Like sometimes you do need therapy and you need medication, but I'm working on controlling the things I can control, which is fueling my body, prioritizing movement, and just getting out of the house in the winter as an introvert who also mainly works from home. I'm really proud of myself for showing up for myself this week. And it meant I couldn't show up on camera, but I showed up for myself. And I do think at the end of the day that matters a lot. I'm feeling a lot better now. So anyways, all that being said, let's jump into the questions. I've got my computer here. You guys asked so many good ones. I like to take all the Instagram screenshots and then just put them into one document so I can kind of just like run through it. I don't want to just have Instagram open because I am working right now on my 50-day challenge on my social media screen time. So like I don't want to just like sitting open and like contributing to my screen time if I'm not actually on Instagram. So I wrote them all down. I'm definitely gonna keep getting distracted by the snow. I'm curious if it will stick because it's like right around 0 right now. I feel like the snow doesn't really stick unless obviously it's below 0. Kind of selfishly hope it does. And then it can melt again in a few days, but we'll see. I'll keep you guys updated throughout the video. I love these questions. I love anything travel. What was your favorite trip of the year and why? Ooh, I have to say London. And it was just that trip. Like, it was that trip for us. You know, when you just feel like you leave a piece of your heart somewhere and it's just like that place for you and it's like that trip and you can't really explain why. That was us with London. I think it was just really special. It was our first European trip, our first time leaving North America, our honeymoon. We just had so much fun. I loved everything about London. I would go back in a heartbeat. If you could let me relive one trip, maybe the trip we got married or engaged, but like besides that, I would relive that trip in a heartbeat. Matt and I watch the London vlog like at least once a month. We're dying to go back. I do see us going back in the next 5 years for sure. I just loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the people. I loved the culture. I loved the environment. I loved the pubs. I loved the history. And I like, it's one of those trips where like I would do the same things all over again, happily. I had so much fun. There's so much of England in general we want to also see. Like, I want to go by the shore. I'd love to spend more time in the Cotswolds. I think a close second is probably our Disney cruise. We had so much fun on our cruise. And yeah, but London like definitely has the top spot this year for sure. 2026 travel plans. Only thing that we have on the docket is a family trip in March with Matt's family. We're going to an all-inclusive in Mexico. That scares me. I've never been to an all-inclusive. I'm very nervous about it. As you guys know, I have emetophobia, and I would say it impacts my day-to-day life, and the girlies that get it, but all I see on TikTok is like, oh, I got food poisoning from an all-inclusive resort, or like, oh, that made me sick, and I am so nervous. I'm stressed about it. I'm stressed. So if you've had a positive experience at an all-inclusive, we're staying in the Riviera Maya, I believe. I think. Let me know. I would love to know. We're going for 4 or 5 days, I believe. Matt's family is going for like, some of them are going for 7 days, some are going for 9. I don't get paid time off of work, so we're kind of just doing like a long weekend trip. I am looking forward to like the relaxing part. I feel like we don't do a lot of relaxing trips. We're both the kind of people who just like to walk around and explore and see sights, but I think it'll be nice. I'm gonna, you know, load my Kindle up, maybe bring a few books and just like have a reading party. I was thinking about filming like a what I read on vacation for a week or something, but yeah, I'm a little nervous about the food part, so I would love some encouragement. Other than that, we have nothing planned. As you guys probably can tell, Matt and I are pretty go with the flow when it comes to the house and travel. Like, we just like to roll with the punches and whatever comes up. This was a huge year of travel, I think, with just work for myself, and I'm so grateful. I love being able to travel for work. It's definitely not like always easy, and it's not as like glamorous, I think, as social media makes it out to be, but it is still such an amazing opportunity. So we'll see what 2026 has to offer. I know we'll probably be heading back up to Iqaluit, heading to the East Coast again for that conference I plan. 2 years ago was St. John's, last year was Fredericton. I think maybe this year it'll be in the Halifax area. I'm not quite 100% sure yet. We talked about maybe doing a European cruise over the summer. We'll see if that happens. Once again, like if something comes up with the house and we need that, we're kind of very flexible. But I'd also love to see more of Canada. Like, I'd love to go to Vancouver. I don't really know yet, but we're kind of just gonna roll the punches and see. We have that family trip, which is really exciting. It's something to look forward to kind of like throughout the winter, which is really nice. And I'm really, really grateful at Matt's family. Like, we're doing a big family trip. That's so fun. I'd love to go to a race. Maybe Montreal. What is your favorite trip from childhood? That is a good one. I actually didn't grow up traveling much. I have never taken a family trip on like my mom's side, like with our siblings. It's just something that we just didn't do growing up. It wasn't something that we could really do. My sister couldn't fly for a while just with some like medical conditions, and yeah, my parents were just grinding and hustling. Like, my parents worked multiple jobs to just like, yeah, they are truly like, they're my superheroes, but we just never had the opportunity to really travel. My biological dad lived in the country until I was 12, and my first time on a plane, as far as I know, I was 11, I think, 10 or 11. It was 2007, however old I was in 2007, I think. And that was my first trip to Disney. My stepmom at the time won money on a scratch ticket, and they asked me what I wanted. I think I said like a trampoline or Disney or something. Anyways, that was our first trip to Disney ever, and I vividly remember so much of that trip. We stayed at All Stars. I think it was All Star Movies because I remember the Fantasia pool, and I remember riding Tower of Terror so vividly for the first time. And then Everest, I made my dad do Everest like 6 times back to back. We went at like an off-peak time. It must have been like September, and I made him ride it like 6 times in a row. And that was where my love of roller coasters began. And yeah, That's the first trip I remember. Family trips were not really something that we did. And I say this now, I was actually saying this to my mom yesterday over coffee, that it'd be so fun to do a family trip now that we're all like adults. And then my biological dad moved to the States when I was 12. So then I became an unaccompanied minor and traveled. So I didn't really ever get that whole, and I always thought I was missing out growing up. It's so funny. Like I never got that like family trip. I was always just flying as an unaccompanied minor to like spend time with him in the summer. I think because I didn't grow up traveling, like family travel and like making those memories. Not that you need to make those memories, right? Like I have so many beautiful memories with my family even though we didn't travel. I think it's that much more special to me now because it's just something that we didn't do. And so I just feel like I appreciate any trip I get to go on, especially with Matt, and just making those memories for like our little family. I don't really remember honestly a lot of time when I would go down to Oklahoma in the summer as an unaccompanied minor. I don't remember really much of that, but yeah, I never did the whole like big family trip thing. What is on your travel bucket list for the next 5 years? This is like assuming that like we are like traveling back to the States and stuff, but I would love to go back to New Orleans. We went during the pandemic when they opened the borders again. You still had to test negative to come home. So I just feel like we didn't enjoy it to the fullest, but it has been a place I've always wanted to go to. You guys know. We went in the summer. It was so hot and a lot of things were still closed because of the pandemic. And I remember it was during the Summer Olympics. We spent so much time in the hotel just watching the Summer Olympics, but I'd love to go back. There was no like buskers out. A lot of restaurants were still closed or like reduced capacity. A lot of like museums and stuff like weren't fully open again. And so I would really love to go back and just kind of like get to experience it all. I'd love to do Ireland and Scotland, Copenhagen, maybe another cruise, staying at a new Disney resort. That would be really, really fun. And yeah, might be kind of pushing it, but I'd like to, in the next 5 years, have seen all 13 provinces and territories. I think that'd be like a fun accomplishment. How do you handle chronic fatigue on trips like Berlin? This is a great question. Our first Disney trip after I had COVID and was diagnosed with long COVID, or what we suspected to be long COVID, was definitely a huge adjustment. And I think communicating with your partner ahead of time is so important. And just know that your first trip after you get diagnosed, maybe something autoimmune, long COVID, something that you know, you have chronic fatigue, just give yourself grace and talk to your partner about, if or whoever you're traveling with, your family, about just like taking things day by day. I felt so overwhelmed and nervous. Obviously I've come such a long way since then in terms of like my abilities, I guess, in terms of my fatigue, and it's something you kind of just have to rebuild, especially for me because my lung capacity was so low post-COVID that now, like for example in Berlin, I was able to walk around like 20,000 steps a day with breaks, but still 30,000 steps a day. And I was pretty good. I was really tired by the end of the day, but like I could do it. So just know that like it's gonna take some time to kind of like rebuild that again. It's so cheesy, but slowing down has made us enjoy trips so much more. I talked about this so much with the London videos, but slowing down, taking all those breaks, wandering around just made us enjoy the trip that much more, and we really enjoyed that slower pace. Plan our days around energy. So I do like one big activity, one small activity. If we can do more, great, but that's like our kind of like all we're planning. So a big activity could be like a museum. I find I get very fatigued when I'm overstimulated. I think that comes from the PPPD, right? Like when I am in a very visually rich or stimulating environment, lots of people, museums, for example, I get really, really tired. And so doing one of those big activities and a small one, and if you can do more, great, but if not, like you accomplish what you need to accomplish. And a small one for us is like visiting this coffee shop or visiting this restaurant. And we find that planning days around like energy activities is really helpful. Slow mornings just to ease into the day and not like rushing around. Having snacks, electrolytes, things on hand to keep your blood sugar up. We also just try to avoid peak times. Once again, for me, I find that I get the most fatigued when I'm like overstimulated, and then I start to get like dizzy and you know, all that kind of stuff. Avoiding peak times for museums, avoiding peak times for dinner. Like when we were in Europe, I feel like most people don't eat dinner until like 7 or 8. So we would go eat dinner at like 5. We would do museums kind of like in the evening, you know, like after the rushes come. Also midday breaks. Midday breaks are a lifesaver, especially somewhere hot and warm like Florida where you're doing lots of walking at Disney. Midday breaks, we do them everywhere now, and it's a really nice chance to recharge, nap, rest in a nice quiet cold environment. Okay, next is a few questions on parenting / children in general. I feel like I've become a little bit more open to talking about this. When Matt and I first got married, I had kind of set a boundary for like 6 to 9 months where I just like wasn't really talking about it. I wanted to have these conversations with Matt behind the scenes before I talked about them online, but I think some of these questions are very valuable, and I hope in sharing just like what I think, it can provide some insight and maybe just make some people feel less alone. Because I know that when I was trying to just figure out like how am I going to juggle my mental health as a parent one day, seeing people answer these questions online, especially on like TikTok and stuff, just made me feel a lot less alone. And I think it's something that not a lot of people talk about. And yeah, so I wanted to just kind of answer a few of these because I just really thought they were like nicely worded questions. So the first one is, I know you've touched on mental health being a barrier to wanting kids, and now that you do lean more yes, what has helped you change your mind? Like, I just think that's such important question. And also like, I don't know, hopefully my insight can maybe provide value to somebody, and you can also feel free to chime in. When you talk about like, for example, mental health as a barrier to wanting kids, like it's a multifaceted question for me. A lot of it stems from anxieties about societal expectations, anxieties about unknowns. Like that's where a lot of my mental health comes into that. But then also just knowing how my mental health is going to be, like I have no idea. Once again, it plays into that anxiety of the unknown. And this is something too, is that I've been working on asking for help more now to prepare myself, because that's something uncomfortable to me. I hate asking for help. Being able to ask for it now is just training my mind to be more comfortable with it when the time comes that I may need to ask for help. So anyways, that was like a very vulnerable question, but I do think it's really important to talk about. For the longest time, my mental health was a big barrier in me not being sure if I wanted kids. If you see me looking over, it's because I wrote some notes down because I didn't want to forget anything. I think over time having these conversations, my mindset has shifted, and realizing that me wanting to be so aware of my mental health as a mother one day doesn't make me, what did I write down? Does it make me less committed as a mom? I think it will actually help me show up better. And I think that was just like a mindset shift I had to work on. One day I was just sitting down with Matt, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna lay this down and like, let's just like talk through it. And basically I just was like, this is what I'm scared of, and how can we work on that? And a lot of my mental health like worries comes from the anxiety of the unknown. And I think there's just like a lot of unknowns in pregnancy, and also just like having a child, that make me really anxious. I think for me it's the anxiety of like, what will my mental health look like? What will pregnancy look like? What will childbirth look like? I have a lot of anxiety around societal expectations. And I'm not saying motherhood is not hard, but there's a difference between being real and being negative. And I think when, like for me, for example, being on the fence about wanting kids and just seeing negative after negative shit online about having a kid, yeah, that makes me not really want to. So I've also started following some more real/positive creators. And once again, I'm not saying it's not hard, but there's a difference between just being negative and being real and sharing those positive moments as well. Just being very intentional about having those conversations early has really helped me a lot, especially because I have so much anxiety about the unknown. And so Matt and I just like chatted about like, hey, these are some of the boundaries I'd like to put in place, and just like obviously you can pre-decide as much as you want, but you're not gonna, like, I know that like thoughts on this might change, but just pre-deciding on some things that may help my mental health down the line. Things about, you know, how we might feed our child. I also think a big thing was I stopped judging myself for being so scared. I feel like no one talks about like being scared online about this, and there's just so much pressure to be like, yeah, you're ready for kids, or like, this is when you're gonna know. Fear does not make me a bad mom one day. It means that I just care so deeply about doing it. I think that once I gave myself permission to feel those feelings without shame, it also really helps my perspective a lot. If you have kids, would you reduce your corporate hours, go full-time with content? I have no clue what I would do, and I'm kind of okay with that. I'm open to whatever. I say right now, like, I don't see myself being a full-time creator. I don't know if my mental health would thrive with that, but maybe one day with a kid, I might want to do that. I have no idea. Daycare is expensive, and there's so many like judgment calls to make when the time comes, but I'm just like leaving myself open to it. I've always thought that I would like to continue working even if it was part-time with a child. Who knows if that's going to be doable, like with daycare and costs of daycare and things like that. I don't know, but I would like to say I'd continue working. I've always been a very big, like, I've always felt very strongly on that. But I also equally feel like staying home and being a parent is such a validating and demanding role to be in. But yeah, I have no idea, honestly. And I'm open to whatever. What are your biggest anxieties with having kids? Losing myself. And I'm trying to remind myself that my identity will shift, but it won't disappear. It will just evolve. relationship changes. I think that's normal as a kid of divorce, societal expectations and judgments, for sure. I feel like everything, like I was watching a TikTok about a mom who said that she chose to formula feed because it was in her best interest for her mental health, and that she had tried breastfeeding and it just like, she just formula fed instead. And the comments were just, I was just like appalled. Like I was just like, wow, should we not be working as a community to like uplift new mothers? So scared. Probably will not be sharing any of those things that I do one day because people have such strong opinions about it. It's, yeah. I have the biggest fear of childbirth. It's actually one of the biggest reasons I didn't want kids for so long. Like if I could just blink and skip over childbirth, I would love that because that is the part that terrifies me the most. Okay, let's get into some hobby questions. Physical book printing pet peeves. Mine is when the front cover is shorter than the rest. I would say a stiff book. I love a good flop. And also I feel like lately there has been such a big surge in poor binding quality. Like when the binding is like not even attached to the book. I feel like I've noticed that so much, and I feel like the quality of binding has gotten so bad. Would you ever start a separate book channel? I would actually love to. I just feel like I barely have time now. If there was ever a world in which, I don't know, there was some world that I was like a full-time creator and I wasn't working a corporate job anymore, then I definitely would. I love what Ellen's done with her channel. Ellen Miller, if you guys watch her, she has a book channel and then her lifestyle channel. I'd love to do that, but for now I'm just having fun filming like 1 or 2 book videos a month. But that would be like the dream, truthfully. Will you share more junk journaling in reels or shorts, or is it personal time for you? I feel like I've finally gotten to a point where I found a good balance of like hobbies and sharing them, but also keeping things for myself. And so whether that's maybe just like 1 reel a month or sharing completed spreads, sharing it in vlogs, I feel like I found a really good balance of what works for me. So my goal would be to film maybe like 1 of them a month. I do feel like I share them a lot more in the vlogs than filming its own like short or reel, but I feel like I found a good balance of sharing it but not letting that affect how I do it creatively. Like I'm not putting the pressure on myself of like, oh well, like this has to look really nice because it's going online. Like it's just like you get what you get, and I'm having a lot of fun with it still. But definitely I think I'm at a good balance right now of doing a lot of it for myself and then sharing a little bit. The 2 books that have surprised you this year: Delighted and Disappointed. Okay, wait, I took this as like 2 books that delighted me and 2 that disappointed me, but it might have been 1 of each. Delighted, I put Dust Storm. I just like, it was a cowboy romance. I just wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I just kind of was like, oh, it's gonna make a good cowboy romance, but it surprised me in the best way. I loved it. Probably Alchemy Secrets, which you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about, but I feel like it surprised me in the sense that like I liked Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I kind of went into it thinking Alchemy Secrets was just gonna be like a 3.5-star read, like a good time, and it just absolutely blew me away. So those were the 2 that delighted me the most. In terms of disappointed, I'm gonna go through my favorite really quick and see if I can come up with something. Probably One Dark Window disappointed me personally. Caught Up. It was still good. I really enjoyed it, but it just like nothing could compare to Lights Out for me. So I think that one disappointed me just like a little bit. What's the first book you remember loving as a kid? Definitely The Doll People, or that like Egyptian book that had like all the pop-ups and stuff, for sure. What is your ideal reading setup, location, drink, lighting? Okay, ideal setup. Let's go. Early evening, after dinner, glass of white wine, Kindle, on the couch, snuggled up, ambiance music on the TV. Hands down, that's my favorite time to read. What kind of book do you want to love but always end up DNFing? Instead of DNFing, I'm just gonna say I end up not enjoying, but probably fake dating. I'm not a fan of the fake dating trope. Hi guys, future Carter popping in because I was editing this video, and of course the one question that gets asked the most was the question that the salt truck was going by, and I was like, oh, surely it's not that loud, and it was really, really loud when he went by, and I wanted to make sure to answer it because I would genuinely love some input on this, whether you're someone in a different sport who can relate, or you're a horse girly or a horse guy. I would really love some advice and maybe just some encouragement, or just, yeah, what you think. I get a variation of this question in every Q&A, and I answered it I think last year, and my answer was at the moment no, but it was like, do you plan on riding again? I know you touched on it last year. Do you plan on riding again? I know you're going out to the barn. Are you riding anything? Kind of like of that sort. And I wanted to answer it because it was a huge part of my life that I shared online. It's how a lot of you guys found me. Like I said, I would love some input on it because I am feeling at a standstill. And the answer to this, I just don't know. My thoughts on this are always changing, and I wrote down my thoughts if you see me look over, because I just wanted to make sure that like I got all my feelings and thoughts out there. Well, first of all, I go to the barn, I see Salem, I hang around there, and I love being at the barn, but something about it also makes me really sad too. As you guys know, I've had a few bad falls between like 20 and 22, or 20 and 23. Anyways, I had 2 concussions within the same year. I have suffered a little bit of like post-concussion syndrome, and like I've had chronic migraines and stuff over the years, and those have slowly faded, which, knock on wood, is better. I still deal with like a few of those side effects, but like my CAT scan, MRI, like everything was clear. But at the time, I was told about the rule of 3s, which was basically like if you get 3 concussions in one go, like that's it. Another, you know, concussion would be like catastrophic. And that is, like, I do agree with that to an extent. It is a little bit of like outdated. Like the rule of 3 is typically, I don't even know, like the rule of 3 is like, I think it's in a year. Anyways, basically I was just told if I ever got another concussion, I'd have to stop riding for good, which really scarred me. And it was kind of like, here's what I'm recommending, but like at the end of the day, make the decision you want to make. Concussions are cumulative. I'm literally looking over because I don't want to mess this up. The more you have, obviously the higher risk of long-term effects. And since both mine happened from riding, logically, the doctor strongly recommended doing the thing that was causing the concussions. And I think that just like really scared me. For a bit, I kept riding because, you know, Salem obviously is a pretty safe horse. At the end of the day, horses are like creatures like with their own brains, and like they can spook at anything. But I decided to control the things I could control, which was like being on a safe horse. You know, I stopped riding my lease horse, who was a young paint, and riding a safer horse. Then I obviously got COVID, and then that also kind of spooked me a little bit too, just like the dizziness and fainting, because I was like, what if I fainted on a horse and got a concussion? Like, I was just terrified. It's something that brings me so much joy, but you only get one brain, and I just want to minimize the risk of a serious injury, but also like, I feel like I've lost a part of who I am and I lost a part of my life. And I've had to grieve that over the last few years. And I think what like stuck with me is one time a doctor said like, you're only, and I think this goes for everybody, right? Like you're only one fall away from your life changing, you know, like from not being a girlfriend to not being a wife to not being a mother, but to like having someone care for you. And that like really spooked me. I know multiple people who still ride with concussions. There's no concussion police that are watching over you and telling you what to do. At the end of the day, it comes down to like your comfort level and your risk tolerance. But I just like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I have this huge hole in my heart, and honestly, like I love spending time with my horse. I love being at the barn, but it makes me just sometimes even more sad. And obviously, if you choose to continue riding, there's things you can do to minimize risk, you know, riding safer horses, sticking to quieter horses, being aware of your surroundings, not putting yourself in a situation where a horse may spook, and like taking things slow. And only you can decide if the reward will outweigh the risk of it. But like, I think for me, I'm just still figuring that out. And I would just like love to know if anyone's been in a similar situation. And I think it's hard because you're thinking about the what ifs. The what if could never come. I could get back on a horse and ride for the rest of my life and ride for the next 50 years and never fall again or be fine. But then there's also that part of me that's like terrified to have that fall. And like, what if I like, I don't know, never get to become a mother or like any of these things, or like just something, I don't know. It's one of those things where like you can't fixate on the fear, but also you have to make like the right decision. And like I said, you only get one brain. And obviously I love being at the barn and I love my horse, but I don't know. And that's the honest answer. It's true that only you're gonna know at the end of the day, but I'm like scared of the hypothetical situation, but I think it's valid to be scared of it. It's been really hard, and to be quite honest, going to the barn sometimes hurts me more than it makes me happy because I just miss riding so much. But that's my answer. Back to the video. Any marriage advice aside from communication? Okay, never talk down to each other in public. This is something that we've decided like when we started dating. I feel like I was just put in situations where we'd be at family events and everyone would just be talking smack about their spouse, and it just made me really uncomfortable, honestly. So that's something that we've both promised each other that we don't do, is we do not talk about each other to anyone in public or private. Obviously, please note that this does not apply to abusive situations or, you know, in a situation where you don't feel safe, but just more like day-to-day arguing. Say the thing before it festers. You're not always going to be right. Appreciate out loud and not in your head. No need to keep score. Forgive faster than your ego tells you to. You'll have to work on undoing the ways in which you may have seen love growing up, and learn to be kind during conflict. struggling in the roommate phase, how to get past it. Also, I'd like to say that the roommate phase is normal and it does happen, especially when life gets busy. You're juggling work, travel, errands, routines, home projects, etc. Like sometimes you're just surviving the day to day. Something I've learned is that it doesn't always mean something is wrong. It just means that you've been in what I call like practical life mode and not in connection mode. So I wrote down, talk about it in an open or defensive way, small intentional moments, making coffee for each other, no phones at dinner, physical touch, hand holding, hugging, sitting close on the couch, and then making little rituals. Maybe it's just you guys going to run errands and you add in a fun stop and grabbing coffee. And I also think it's important to note that it's not a sign that you're failing in your relationship. It's just part of being human. And the key is to not let it go on for forever. The key is to be aware of it, notice it, and learn to notice it. That's a big thing too, is like notice those little habits and like when you're feeling yourself sinking into it and kind of shift back to that connection mode. How to better balance being a homebody and being social with friends. I feel like this is something I'm still working on, but it's something I've been prioritizing, especially with winter coming and just like needing to get out of the house. So the first tip I have is taking your time when it comes to committing to plans. I'm someone who used to always just jump the gun and say yes to everything, and then I'd later regret it. So now what I do is I take the time to be like, can I just get back to you? I'm gonna check my calendar, and then I can be really intentional with what I say yes and no to. Planning events around when I have more energy. It's gonna be different for everyone. Because I work from home most days, I actually feel like weeknight evenings is when I have a lot of energy. It's when we have book club. So I find myself always wanting to go to book club. Whereas by the weekend, I'm usually pretty tired and I don't want to make plans. Give yourself like calendar quotas, I call it. So I have one social outing a week and one friendship catch-up call bi-weekly, which is like your bare minimum. So set whatever your bare minimum is monthly and make sure that you commit to that. Have your friends hold you accountable. I have a few friends that, especially for like book club, I'm like, you need to hold me accountable. It's not that I don't want to go. It's kind of like going to the gym when the hardest part is just getting out of the house. And then once you're there, you're so happy. So have friends that can hold you accountable in a kind way. So those are some of my homebody tips to being social. Post-wedding blues, how do you tackle them? I know they're normal, but I'm planning a wedding and I'm scared that it will all be gone in a flash. I definitely would say for this, if you don't already and if it's in your budget, to maybe just even have a friend capture content around your day. Obviously, we love our wedding photos, but having Brianna capture our wedding day in the vlog, and even if you don't vlog, like just having clips of your day on your phone that you can look back on, I find to be like a bit more special. But I do think that over time, as someone who had wedding blues like really bad, I think over time they do naturally just dwell down. Think about it like you're coming off of a huge emotional high, and it's also totally okay to grieve that special moment that you had, but I do think that you have to like give yourself time. For us personally, I know it's not the case for everyone, it was really nice to have a honeymoon that was a bit further out to look forward to. I think had we had our wedding and honeymoon back to back, I would have been a bit more sad. It was nice to have something to look forward to. And then same thing, just like giving yourself things to look forward to, because our brains really do thrive on anticipation. Getting married was a chapter, not the peak in our lives, because everyone says like, oh, this is the best day of your life. And then you're like, well, shit, what now? But I try to remind myself it wasn't the peak, that it was just like a chapter, and there's so many beautiful chapters ahead of us. A little snow update for you guys. It's not sticking to the ground and I'm upset about it. But maybe it will, because it's only just starting. I think, let me check the radar. Oh, feels like -8. Maybe it will stick to the ground. I think, oh yeah, the heavy shit is coming. The heavy shit is coming. We're supposed to get 16 to 20 centimeters. Oh, it's just beginning. I think we should watch a Christmas movie tonight. I think we should get wild. Okay. Focus, Carter. These are like some of the random questions, which are always some of my favorite. Do you speak French? Oui, je parle français. J'ai étudié français pendant l'école primaire et secondaire. What's your personal Roman empire? The thing you randomly think about all the time. This makes me think about how I've never had an original thought once in my life. I always thought growing up that I was so weird for being like invested in the things I loved. And then TikTok just always reminds me I've never had an original thought. So these are some things that I have a hyperfixation royal empire on. A lot of these were from childhood that have carried on. I think the theme we'll notice here is history. Major events in history. The Egyptians, thanks to that book I talked about earlier. Pompeii, the Titanic, JFK assassination, big witchcraft phase with the Salem witch trials, and the royals, specifically Princess Diana and all that. So yeah, those are some of mine. Let me know down below what some of your Roman empires are. Do you think you'll run a half marathon again or ever a full one day? Yes, I have signed up for the 2026 Ottawa Race Weekend, which is exciting and also terrifying. I really said that this is the year that I'm conquering my like post-long COVID fears. So I'm very excited about that. I think the only time I would ever run full is Disney Marathon Weekend. That's the only full I will ever do. But also every time I finish a half, I'm like, I could not do that again, like for another like repeat. So if I do one, it would just be probably Marathon Weekend at Disney. Honestly, coffee from home or coffee from a coffee shop. If it's a specialty coffee, coffee from a coffee shop. But like day to day, I love coffee at home. Although I will say something kind of crazy. Something about winter, I just want a pot of coffee. I have been thinking about it. I love my Breville, I do. But sometimes you just want like a big cup of coffee and not espresso. So I do wish we still had like a coffee maker, like a pot of coffee maker. I've been looking on the Buy Nothing. I've been looking on Facebook Marketplace for like a cheap one. Something about winter, I just crave like a big pot of coffee. I don't know, like a pumpkin spice latte. I'd rather that the coffee shop. But if it's just like a day-to-day coffee, I love our coffee at home. If I gave you $100 right now to spend on something frivolous, what would you choose? This one has like a funny, not really like story behind it, but I messaged the girl that sent this question and I said, oh my gosh, this is a fun question. And she said that sometimes her husband will message her this and then just give her the $100, which I was like, that is so fun. Actually, if we're gonna get quite specific here, I would go to Panera. I love it. I love it. I get a pick two, turkey Bravo BLT and a mac and cheese with a lemonade. I'm just already so excited thinking about that. And then I would probably go to the bookstore. Maybe get a Jelly Cat, honestly. A Jelly Cat and a book. Does that bring me to $100? I don't know, Jelly Cats are expensive, but I think that's what I would do. Do you have any weird quirks? I don't think I have anything that's that weird. I despise the smell of dog food. It has always made me gag like my whole life. That's not really weird though. I don't think dog food smells great. I only change the volume in increments of 5. This one is probably weird. But when I pass by a cemetery, I put the windows down and I wave to the people who maybe don't have people wave to them. So I can just say hello so they can feel loved. I have to walk in and out of the same door. Like I can't walk out the back door and come in the front door. That's like bad juju. I eat my M&Ms by color. And then this is like very Disney specific, but when Matt and I see fireflies, we yell Evangeline from Princess and the Frog. But yeah, so I guess those are like just kind of like some weird things that I do. If you won the lottery, how would your life change? Okay, I actually don't, like, I think we'd pay off our mortgage, maybe pay off my parents' mortgage too. I don't think I'd quit my job because I would try really hard to not give into that lifestyle creep, but it would just be nice to have that like financial freedom, I think. Go on a big family trip, invest a decent amount of it. But I think I would try to live the same life day to day because you see so many people that like win the lottery and then they end up like declaring bankruptcy and stuff. So I think I would try my best to just like live my normal life. Maybe do some like crazy home projects, like, you know, replacing all my windows. It's like such an adulting thing. If you were to choose a different career now as an almost 30-year-old, what would it be? I would probably love to own a coffee shop or work at a library or a bookstore. But I could also like just do that now if I wanted to too, which is like so cool. I would love to work at a bookstore. How did you find your career and decide it was right for you? I'm in my mid-20s and I feel so lost. I found my career just through like an internal hospital posting. And I was just trying things out. If you've been following along, I have tried so many things out. My first job was at a kennel. And then I worked at a small animal vet clinic. I really wanted to be a vet for a while. And then I worked at a large animal vet clinic. And then I worked at Bulk Barn. I love that job. Also throughout like my riding in my teens, early 20s, I worked at the barn, like stalls and things like that. Mucking shit, quite literally. What else have I done? And then I was like, I think I want to be in healthcare. I'm probably missing a job, honestly, somewhere, but I worked in family practice for a while because I had my PSW license and I was doing like vitals and things like that, like a CNA. I did that for a while. I was a receptionist at another doctor's office that was like the one downtown for our university. Then I got my job at the hospital. And I was working as a clerk, and then I got a job at our children's hospital next door. I was working in staffing. I did that for quite a few years. I did some project work during the pandemic with like recruitment and staffing there. Then I did some stuff for Epic when that went live. Epic is like the EMR that we use. I worked in that for 6 months on contract, went back to clerking with the data analysis team. I did that for about a year. and then I got my role. I'm probably missing a few little things here and there, but yeah, I've tried so many different things out over the years. What I think is important is that like right now I enjoy my job. I also am really lucky that like I have social media on the side, in the sense that like I get a lot of fulfillment from this. So for me, my corporate job doesn't need to be as fulfilling. It fits the season of life I'm in right now. I get to travel. I'm really grateful, but it just kind of came up, honestly, and I was willing to try it out. I also feel like I have a bit of a different perspective on timelines in general. My dad, who I just look up to so much, he was self-employed for most of my childhood in landscaping, and then he also was a volunteer firefighter. And he was just always working crazy hours. Like looking back on it, he did so much to hustle for our family. He plowed snow in the winter. There was so many Christmases he was gone. 7 years ago now, he got his dream job as a fire chief, like something he'd been working towards his whole life. And I think that's really shaped how I see success, is that for some people it just comes later in life. It's just a reminder that your timeline is your own. And not to say that everyone is gonna like just find success like later down the line in their 40s, but I think that timelines are just so dependent on the person. And remember that you're just seeing the good side of social media, right? Like you're just seeing the highlights that people want to share. But some tips that I have, because that was just kind of like my thoughts on it, is follow what feels good to you, not what sounds impressive. Because at the end of the day, you are not your job. You don't have to have an impressive job, okay? When I go to a family event, I don't ask people how their job is or what they do for work. I ask them like what fulfills them, what hobbies they like, what they like to do for fun, how their kids are, how their pets are, any vacations they went on lately. Like I try to not ask people about their job because I don't want that to be solely what defines them. Careers aren't soulmates, they're just seasons of life. You can love something for a few years and then outgrow it. It doesn't mean it wasn't right, it just means you're evolving as a person. And just give yourself permission to try things out. Like I've tried so much out in my 20s. I think being lost in your 20s and figuring your job out is completely normal. I guess my answer is that I didn't just magically find my job. I think I just allowed myself to change and try things out. And I don't really know what my forever plan is, but right now I'm content. Do you plan your content or create based on vibes? Vibes, solely vibes, truthfully. I'm just going with the flow. Someone also asked, how do you balance content creation 9 to 5? And I'm not doing a good job of it right now, truthfully. Like I'm really not. I really want to have better structure in 2026, but right now, if I'm being honest, I'm just creating based on vibes solely. Do I recommend? Kinda. Like create on vibes, but have a schedule. Okay, last section we're gonna answer is home, because I feel like I've been yapping for so long. Any updates on the breakfast nook? No, unfortunately. I do think that's like a winter project. We'll get into like some timelines of stuff after, but I have no updates. We have some other things we definitely need to finish first, but it is coming, I promise. I'd say by April 2026, we'll be done it for sure. Is this your forever home? I would hope so, but honestly, I'm also just open to, once again, wherever the wind takes us. The only way I could see us moving is if we found something with a couple of acres. We would like to have a bit more land that was a bit more secluded, like no direct neighbors. But we're really lucky, like we live on a dead end street in a very small town. And we love, I mean, you guys know, we literally get together with our neighbors like once a week. We love them. But that's the only way I could see us moving, and definitely not anytime soon. I could see us living here forever, and I could also see us maybe in 10, 15 years getting something with a little bit of land. Yeah, I don't think we have any plans to move anytime soon. But that being said, who knows? Matt could get like a job opportunity somewhere in like, I don't know, Halifax, and we would maybe jump on it. So I love our house though. I love her so much, and I do hope she's our forever home. I do love her. We're going where the wind takes us. We just got a fixer-upper, and I feel so overwhelmed. Any tips? I think it's normal to feel overwhelmed. I think that a fixer-upper is this constant list of things that you should do, and it's kind of tugging at you from every single room, and it's overwhelming and it's exciting at the same time, especially when you're also just juggling life, right? And some people are juggling a job, kids, and just so much, right? First step is brain dump everything. Matt and I sat down and brain dumped everything that we had to do and would like to do in the first 5 years. And then we basically categorized it. I'm a very visual person. I find this helps so much. Quick wins. Those are things that you can do in like a day, a couple of hours. They're low cost. Painting a wall, putting trim up, putting new outlet covers on, etc. And then weekend projects. So these are things that take a few days or a full weekend and still relatively low cost. Then major renovations. So these are things that require planning, budgeting, and outside help. And then future ideas and dream lists. So things that have no timeline yet. Like for example, we would love to do some structural work in the basement and raise the house up a little bit, but like we have no timeline on that. And then the next thing that we found really helpful was to think in seasons and quarters and not weeks. And someone also asked like what our projects are for the end of the year and whatnot, but it's kind of changed, and we were getting, once again, very overwhelmed because we had said we were going to do like 3 or 4 things that are just not feasible by the end of the year. So what we like to do is this is something new we implemented, and I think it's going to work really well for us, is that we picked one big project for the both of us, and then each of us, we picked 2 small projects to do. So I can put that on the screen, what that looks like. Having 1 main project and 1 to 2 mini projects. And this can be anything from like organizing a space, painting a wall, putting an outlet cover on once again, and breaking things up into bigger chunks of time. Because Matt and I were literally like, we're going to put a closet in, finish our dining room, get a new vanity all before the end of the year. And I was like, who did we think we were setting those goals? Because now we feel so overwhelmed and stressed, and I'd rather set less and make it happen than, I know for us, if we set more, we're just going to procrastinate and do none of it. Break each project into mini milestones. That way, when you feel like you're not making progress, you'll see that you are, and you can check off those smaller wins. So we'll break things down quite literally line by line. So our dining room, for example, like step 1 was plan, measure, have the contractor out. And then step 2 was like remove door. And then step 3 was paint room. And like we break it down like literal item by item, because then sometimes you'll be like, wow, I have made no progress at all, but actually you've done like 4 or 5 things, and you'll see those little wins and you'll gain that momentum again. Last tip I have is something new that we're also going to implement, is 1 day every month we are going to set aside as like a finish day, where basically we just finish up anything small that we are doing. So whether it's touch-ups, caulking, painting, spackle, once again, outlet covers, putting trim back on, we carry a lot of small unfinished tasks into every month, and that's what kind of snowballs into bigger anxiety and overwhelm for me. And so I think that that will help too, just like kind of getting everything done and putting it away and like opening the calendar to a fresh month, and you're not taking anything over with you unless it's something major. Home projects for 2026. This is a great question. Honestly, once again, no idea. There's things that we would love to do. One of the big ones for us is having an interior designer come out. I always thought for some reason that like when you got an interior designer, you had to commit for like your whole project, which I was like, I just don't know if we could afford that. Like having someone like actually redo a space, until my parents actually told me that you could, sorry, my hair's bothering me. You could have someone just come out to do a consultation. And so we ended up finding someone who, her prices are pretty reasonable. She works with a lot of older houses in the Glebe and Old Ottawa South. And she's going to help us just visualize flow on our 2nd floor, which I think is something we've been putting off, and we're learning. As you can tell, we had to do the library twice. That doing things slow truly is better in the long run. And if you guys don't know, if you're new to the channel, we had a bathroom that flooded like a couple weeks after we moved in. It was missed on the inspection, and that room has been gutted. We had 2 full baths upstairs, now we have 1. And so that room has sat gutted for about 6-7 months now. And we're just deciding what we want to do. But Matt and I just keep going back and forth that we're like, it'd be best to have like an unbiased point of view from someone who like structurally helps with the flow of houses to help us figure it out. We thought laundry room, then we said no. Then we went back to laundry room, then we're like not sure. Then we're like, maybe we do a laundry room closet or a laundry closet, and then we do something else in that room. And just, yeah, we have like a den that right now has our closet in there. We're wondering if we seal that off, make it a walk-in closet. Maybe that's a playroom one day for a kid. There's just so much. So we would love to do that and just help with flow and like making a plan that's looking at the house with fresh eyes. We do need to do the PAX entryway. I don't think it's going to happen before the end of the year. That's like very wishful thinking. But that is a good, like Matt was making a good point that winter is a great time to like hunker down and just do a bunch of stuff around the house. Like we were really trying to enjoy these last few months of like summer and fall. So we weren't really doing much. And like now winter is such a good time to just like get shit done. So the PAX entryway closet would be great to get some storage. A lot of landscaping. We're going to do the side of the house next year, which you guys have probably never seen because it is a disaster. But we're going to knock down part of our porch. We're going to mulch it. I'm going to get some garden beds. Big landscaping year next year, which is really exciting. Just creating a little oasis in our backyard. We want to put a gate in between us and our neighbor's house for when we go over for beers. Just like fun little things. You guys know we just grass seeded? That's not a verb. Seeded the backyard. So we'll have some nice fresh grass in the spring, which is so exciting. So a lot of landscaping. I'm excited to share more home projects with you guys. I just think that sometimes on social media it's deceiving. Like big projects just take time. Like we've been working on our dining room for like 6 months now. Getting that finished up, that's like a winter project as well. And then we'll reassess come spring. But I'd say for the first 4 or 5 months of next year, priorities are the breakfast nook, finishing off the dining room, and having the interior designer out. But anyways, those were most of the questions. You guys like asked so many good ones. There was obviously like a lot of like repeated questions, which I tried to answer those more like kind of commonly asked ones. And then I saved some for the next Q&A as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a good Sunday. I can say that because I'm filming this in real time as you guys are seeing this. But I love you guys so much. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.